there's a lot that we can cover, but we've only got a certain amount of time, and some of the things I was thinking about you might be interested in. Of course, one, social media and what your presence looks like on there, resume writing, format, how to work with recruiters, phone interviews, in-person interviews, these sorts of things, and then just general market out there. Are any of those things, I mean, are you guys interested in all of those things, or are any of those things areas that are really interested, that you're very interested in, that I can address today?
One of the things that maybe talk about working with multiple recruiters.
Okay.
But I've had to learn that process.
Sure.
Sometimes the hard way.
Okay. All right. Very good. Anyone else?
I would say, like, for people who have no experience programming in the past but have different careers, that those skills might be applicable.
Yeah.
What exactly should you carry over, to would it waste time for to have these skills shown? So
Okay.
Different people have different backgrounds.
Sure. All right. I'm just going to jot some notes.
Even to dovetail on that, how do I market myself when you have no prior experience?
Yeah, it's hard
or
to
you
do.
have a different career that's not related to the tech field.
Sure. Yeah, it's a good one. I might have some ideas for you on that, but a lot of it is going to be about, just so you know, a lot of it's going to be about putting yourself out there way more than everyone else, working for a lot less than everyone else, doing projects on your own, things like that, but we can definitely address it. Let's see, multiple recruiters. What else, guys? I mean, the whole reason everyone's here is not just because you like making websites, it's because you want to work and get paid, right?
Yeah.
How many people here, just show of hands, are on a second career or a third? Okay, so most everybody. All right. And out of, what's that?
Starting salary?
Starting salaries?
Yeah.
Sure. I'm not expecting anyone to read this. I've got really bad chicken scratch writing. All right. Anything else? Yes, sir.
I'm not actually from Portland,
Okay.
so
Where are you from?
Hawaii.
Oh, great.
But I know pretty much nothing about the area. How much is like information on local stuff important in these situations?
You mean having a work history that's local? Is that what you mean?
Either work history that's local or just being knowledgeable of a particular area. I don't know. Do companies prefer to hire in state, in city, these kind of things? Or?
Look, I think localism is really important if you are in sales and you're bringing a client base with you, or if you're driving a truck and you want to know where to go. Beyond that, I don't think it's that important. I think that people actually like to hire people from different backgrounds and different cultures and different parts of the country. It might even be an advantage for you.
Thank you.
Sure. Anything else? No? Okay. Well, we're almost ready. Here come some of the late ones. Get the cheap seats in the back. So, how far into is everyone staggered on their courses right now? Okay, so was it about 16 weeks, is that right? Okay. How many people are in their first half of their course? Okay, and just again, show of hands, second half of the course. All right. How many people here have a resume? Okay, most of you. Can you do that again? Raise them real high. Okay, thanks. And how many people love their resume? Raise your hand. All right, that's great. How many people hate their resume? You hate it? What do you hate about it?
I hate the one for the programming one, but
okay.
The one for my previous career is pretty good.
Okay.
But
all right, cool. Well, I did have this beautiful, beautiful PowerPoint to go through, but unfortunately, it's not possible today. But I'm happy to try and describe things as best I can for you. And if anyone wants to pop over afterwards, and I can maybe show you some images that will help you get a good visual reference on how to style a resume that's going to be highly readable and effective for you, then I'm happy to do that too. All right, I think we'll probably just get going. There might be some more people coming in, some stragglers, but we're 2 minutes past 2:30, so we'll just kind of get going. My name's Josh Matthews, and here's Danny. Yeah, we're all good, buddy?
Yeah.
All right, great. So my name's Josh, and I work for Robert Half Technology. Sorry, this thing's blowing up. Get rid of it. Okay, so I work for Robert Half Technology. We just go by RHT. A little bit about RHT. We are about a $1 billion division of Robert Half International. We are the oldest and largest specialized staffing firm in the world. I worked with RHT for a period of 4 years, ran their consulting services division locally, which CS, or consulting services, is web development, software development. Left for about 5 years, came back in February to run the branch, and I think we do a great job. You know, we really try to focus on servicing the client and the candidate equally, not just the client. So a little bit about me. I've been doing this since 2000. I've run a national organization in Australia for a period of time, as well as had my own permanent placement staffing company for 2 years that was very successful. I got lonely, which is why I came back to Robert Half, and I really enjoy working with a much larger team and a much larger organization. And I probably interviewed over 6,000 people. So that's, I don't share that to show you how boring I am doing the same thing over and over again, but to just kind of give you some sense of credibility for some of the things that we're going to talk about today. So I'm going to pull up my little PowerPoint and look at my little thing, and that'll keep me on track ideally. We'll see how well it works. Okay, so the first thing I thought we'd talk about real quick is working with recruiters. How many people here have worked with a recruiter? Can you just show me by a show of hands? Okay, and did anyone have a terrible experience or a great experience that you'd like to share? Yes?
I've had a number of recruiters call me on the phone, and I really genuinely cannot understand what they're saying. I mean, they're speaking, you know, I don't know if they're calling me from India or what, but
Okay.
you know, they're talking about a job that they have open that they want me to apply for, and blah, 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 and they're trying to tell me about the job, and I really can't understand what they're saying. And I have to ask them to repeat themselves, because the accent is just so thick. I'm trying, but I can't get what they're saying.
Okay. Anyone else? So look, that can be an issue. There's a number of different types of styled businesses with recruiters. We work for a large, disparate organization with lots of different lines of business and about 100 offices. Some are little tiny shops, like my old shop, and then some are out of New Jersey, but not really out of New Jersey. They're out of Mumbai, and they're, you know, they're just a little bit of a different feel. Sometimes there's great jobs through those organizations, and sometimes not. We never advertise false positions just to get resumes and just to get candidates. We only call people if we've got something real to talk about that's going to work well, ideally for them, and to see how we can make it work. Sometimes we reach out to people even if we don't have a position, just because we want to stay connected, because the reality is when you're working with a recruiter, if they're calling you, you know, and you've never met them before, the chances of you getting that job go way, way down. And the reason for that is things happen really fast, especially in this market. It's a crazy fast market. I've never seen anything like this. So we'll get a job and then it gets filled like that. We usually only have about 4 or 5 days for someone who's highly qualified to hang on to that candidate. It's going to be a little bit different for some of you being very new to the industry, but just understand that you're going to want to talk to a number of different recruiters on purpose, just to be able to spread your wings and develop good relationships early on. So 7 keys to working with recruiters. 1, choose firms that specialize. RHT specializes. There's about 4 or 5 other good-sized major players that are either regional or national in the market that I think are very good companies to work with, and you should feel comfortable working with. You're going to want to work with experienced recruiters. It's sort of like, I don't know how many people here own a house or have bought real estate before, but if you're buying a piece of property, you can work with any realtor, any buyer's agent. you know, is Aunt Jenny and she sells 2 houses a year, and some people are multi-million-dollar producers, and it doesn't cost you anymore to work with someone who's experienced. There's no cost for you. Absolutely zero cost for you to work with a recruiter. Did everybody know that already? Okay, so who pays for the work that they're doing?
Employers.
The company. Yeah, exactly. So remember that and treat your recruiters really nicely. Okay? Most people are really friendly, but I do think sometimes, I've noticed in the past that sometimes candidates can get quite demanding of a recruiter, but you know, you're not coughing up a bill, so the best way to get the most out of a recruiter is the same way we get the most out of any relationship that we have, and you know, we all attract more flies with honey, right? So just be good, nice, friendly, genuine people, because they are, from the moment they call you or the moment you talk to them, all the way through till they're walking you in the door for your new position, your new career, you are being judged. There's an accounting taking place over your presentation, your interactions, and your communication abilities. One of the things I really like about my job is to be able to build these relationships. And I could talk to you one time, sit down, we could interview, be like, man, I love this guy, he's so great, he's kind of funny, and he's interesting, and he's, you know, a happy person, he's a motivated person. And then the next time I talk to you, you're complaining about your day, and you're kind of crabby, and then the third time, you're just like, well, how come you don't have a job for me? And what am I thinking of you now? It doesn't matter. That first impression went right out the door. So we're looking for consistency in presentation, consistency in your personality and who you are. That makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Also, keep track of interviews. Jerry, this is to your point, right? Okay. So it's okay to work with multiple recruiters. I encourage it. You know, we don't have all the jobs, right? There's no way. There's lots of companies with lots of different jobs and lots of different relationships. I'm very much patriotic and American. I believe in good, healthy competition, and I'm certainly okay with having lots of other good companies out there to work with, like Tech Systems or K-Force or Vanderhouen, right? So it's totally fine to talk to all of these groups. Here's what's really important. Everyone knows what Excel is, right? Okay, so get an Excel spreadsheet. If you apply for a job, take the extra 10 seconds, type in what the job was, when you applied, what company it was for, and whether or not you were submitted by a recruiter for that position or if you applied on your own. Here's what happens. If I send Jerry's resume into Cambia for a job, okay, and Jerry doesn't remember that he already submitted himself to Cambia for a job, then Cambia says, we don't even want the hassle of figuring out whether we have to pay a fee or not. We're not going to look at the emails. We're not going to track. We're not going to do a big forensic investigation on how Jerry got to us. We're just not going to talk to Jerry at all. So you're going to shoot yourself in the foot if you don't keep track. Make sense? Fair enough? All right, cool. The last bit of advice on this is to take the advice. Take the advice when you sit down with a recruiter. All of our recruiters try very, very hard to make sure that everybody walks out of our office a little bit better prepared for the job market. Because the reality is, you have about a 1 in 10 chance, maybe a 1 in 9 chance, that we will place you, if we've interviewed you, ever. Not next week, not tomorrow, not in 3 months, ever. So that means we have 90% of the people that we sit down and talk to are thinking, forget those guys, they never helped me out, right? What'd they do for me? They never called me back, never got a job, right? So if you think about it though, you go, let's say you just take one recruiter, and that one recruiter is talking at a minimum 10 people a week, probably closer to 10 to 15 people a week, and they do that all year. Who's good at math? How many is that people, how many interviews is that a year?
120.
Sorry?
3,500.
Well, it's about, yeah, it's about 500-600.
Yep.
500-600 a year. Okay, so it's a lot of people to keep track of. So definitely keep track of your stuff, but understand too that there's got to be some sort of value when you're meeting with a recruiter. So we really make sure that if we're sitting down with you and you're taking time to come in and meet with us or doing a Skype interview, which a lot of companies are doing, including us these days, to protect your time and ours, we try to make sure that you're given some piece of advice, whether it's on an interview, just one second, Jerry, whether it's an interview strategy, something you can do on your resume, the way you're interviewing, how you're dressed, anything like that. Take the advice. Makes sense. The people who don't get jobs as quickly as the people who do, and that's just the reality. If someone's 3 months on the job and they're giving out tons of advice, I don't know, maybe take the advice but with a grain of salt. All right? So any questions about working with recruiters? Because we're going to move on to some other fun stuff. Yes, sir?
What's the best way to keep track of, like, say it's a big company that has multiple openings.
Okay.
What's the best way to keep track of, whose recruiters signed up for what opening?
So if you're working with one company at a job with a company, you're probably going to stick with that one recruiter for all positions for that one organization. Yeah, this is where it gets really gray and foggy. So if you're working with me, and I've submitted you for ABC company job number 2, and you weren't selected for that, now you're interested in job number 4, then you would continue to work with me on that. Typically, if we submit you, then you've got about 6 months that any job that comes up that you're placed in, we would get the credit for.
How do you suggest finding a recruiter that works for you? I don't know. Some people have mentioned that some recruiters didn't work for them. I've never had to find a recruiter, so
yeah.
How do you suggest that?
Yeah, that's a numbers game, right? We, just like candidates, not all candidates work for us. We can't place everyone that we meet. So I think, again, spreading your wings and being inclusive of more people is the very best thing. But you can make just about any recruiter work for you if they are local and if they're nice and you're nice to them. But just understand that not all recruiters are equal, just like not all candidates are equal in their experience and abilities and capabilities. Doesn't mean that there isn't a place for everybody, but just know that. Does that help?
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions related to that? Yeah.
So when you work with a specific recruiter,
Yeah.
are you aware of which jobs the recruiter will sign you up for so that you don't send duplicate emails with your resume on it, or is it just kind of shotgun?
So that's a really good point. I'm glad you brought it up. You should make sure that your recruiter understands that you're not to be submitted unless you've been pre-qualified by them for that position. So there are certain groups that you can talk to and you just say, hey, Jimmy, please don't submit me for any jobs unless we talk about that job first. That's what I would do. Cool?
And so at that point, you're provided with the name of the company so you don't double up and send another
Exactly.
resume on.
Exactly. You should get a call before you're submitted.
And is that general practice, or is that something that your
It's
firm
mostly
does?
a general practice. It is not always a general practice, especially with the types of organizations that my friend here in the T-shirt had to deal with. Okay, so you're definitely going to want to protect yourself that way. Another thing, practice in some less than reputable organizations is to submit your resume with your full name, completely submit you to a job, but they don't have a working relationship with that person. And then another reputable organization that's qualified the job with you submits their resume, and you wind up like poor Jerry here with a big X on your head. Right? Okay. So I have to keep opening this thing and unlocking it with my little thumbprint. Try again, Josh. Try again. Here we go. All right. So I think it's pretty interesting. We're just going to talk about the general job market right now and how to get, like, how to find jobs. What percentage do you think of available jobs are advertised?
10, 25.
10%?
Like
25%? Yeah. It's about 20%. In fact, Gil, you were there when I talked to Jimmy just about half an hour ago, and he's like, how do I know? It doesn't look like there's a ton of jobs. It's like, really? There's tons of jobs. The fact is, especially in a market right now where we're moving really fast and jobs are, people are getting placed very quickly, there's not even time to type up a job description, post an ad, get resumes submitted, call those people, bring them in, interview them, submit them, hold their hand through the process for an interview. because it's just like, oh, got a job order? Sure, boom. I'm going to look at my matrix or my list of hot candidates. I'm going to make a few phone calls, and then boom, we're done. We're done. You know, we did, we got a job order this morning, and it was, 15, 20 seconds. It was like, Johnny and Jenny, let's get them over there. Let's call them right now. Yep, they're good to go. Boom, it's done. So you're not even going to see that advertisement, which is why it's really important to register with some good, reputable recruiters. Cool? All right. Let's talk just real quick, if we can, about social media. How many people here have an online social presence? Almost everybody. Raise your hand if you don't. How come?
I have a LinkedIn profile, but I never wanted to be involved in Facebook, so I never got it.
Okay, but you're on LinkedIn.
I'm on LinkedIn.
LinkedIn social media. Okay. And LinkedIn's a very, very powerful tool for all of you and all of us. How many people here have over 100 contacts on LinkedIn? Okay. And how many people here have over 500? Great. All right. And how many people here have over 1,000? I do, but I have to. Okay. So here's the deal. When we find someone that we like, what do you think is the first thing that we do? Like, I got a resume, I met the person, I'm sitting at my computer, what am I going to do?
LinkedIn.
Google. Yep, I'm going to Google that person. And what do you think I'm going to find?
Facebook, probably first.
I'm going to find whatever they've got. I'm going to find anything that is available. I might not spend half an hour looking at it, but it doesn't take very long for me to read a LinkedIn profile, find some weird old posts that they had from college, you know, whatever. I mean, I've seen some pretty interesting, some pretty goofy stuff. So, in fact, I was doing a similar talk like this over at Clark College, and there was one fellow who apparently posts some very strong and interesting perspectives on politics, which is totally fine, but, you know, don't be a troll and think you're going to get a job and not found out. That's basically what I'm saying. So, like, just be cool on the internet, guys. Like, don't put scandalous pictures up. If you're negative and you're ragging on people, whether it's the basketball player that you thought should have been drafted and so-and-so's a punk for not picking them, or whatever, or it's, you know, your feelings are actually miniature radios recording everything you say to the government, or like you just gotta be cool, man, and relax a little bit on that stuff. You can go to your LinkedIn and you can protect certain aspects of information that you might not want public. Same thing for your Facebook, right? You can go in, and you guys should be technical by now. You're here probably because you're technical by nature. So go into your Facebook, make sure that it's like friends only, you know, not friends and friends and friends of friends of friends of friends, you know, for every little thing, you know. Honestly, no one cares what you had for breakfast in the photo that you put up anyway. So, but still, just be cool about your social media presence. Does anyone here think that maybe they should go back at the end of the day today and do a little tweaking on their social media profiles? Okay, well, and I'd recommend that. Let's talk about photographs on your LinkedIn profile. We are not, like, when I was working in Australia, everyone's got a photograph on their resume. I like it because I'm terrible with names, which is why I keep using the word Jimmy over and over again. I'm really bad. I'm very good with faces, and I could recognize you in 20 years, and I'd be like, I know you, but I won't remember your name if you told me in 2 minutes. And so I actually liked it. But it's an illegal practice here in the United States. The way around that, of course, is LinkedIn. So everyone checks you out. What's this person like? Now, we, of course, are equal opportunity employers. We don't care what you look like. We do care what you smell like. Don't smell bad. But we don't care what you look like, right? But you're going to have an impression. You're going to make an impact on whoever's looking at your information. So if you have a picture, and I recommend that you do, please, you know, no hats in the picture. Gil, stand up here. None of these with the shoulder cut off of your fiance, you know. Like, just take a real picture and look all right and have it be color. And what's the number one thing you should be doing in that photograph?
Smile.
So It's so cool. Everyone knew that. And yeah, I'll bet if I went to everyone's LinkedIn picture, it wouldn't necessarily be the case. So let's definitely put on a nice big toothy grin. I had this guy, it's just kind of a quick aside. I had this guy, and he was the nicest guy, and he was a really good technologist, and I really enjoyed talking to him. I had a great interview with him, and he wouldn't smile. And I told him, I was like, look, man, you know, when you go out, and I interview thousands of people, but when you go out and you interview at a company, how many people do you think those people have actually interviewed in their lifetime, typically?
10, maybe.
1, 10, maybe 30, maybe 4, maybe none. So it's a stressful experience for someone to interview, and you can ask anyone that I've trained to interview how they feel after they go out and interview someone for the very first time in their lives. It's not a ton of fun. And so we want to be able to relax these people, and we do that by smiling. Yeah, that's right. So please smile. Anyway, this guy, he didn't like his teeth. His teeth were a little bit jacked up, and that's all right. And you know what? It didn't matter. He looked great when he was smiling. He looked happy. He looked excited. So it doesn't matter if you don't like your teeth or you don't like your smile. As long as you brushed your teeth that morning, give a big toothy grin to everybody that you meet when you're out at a company or when you're talking to a recruiter. So that's just a really big, important one. All right. Does anyone have questions about social media? Yes?
Well, how deep back do you go when you're Googling me?
Well, look, I'm not going to hit page 2, man, you know. But does anybody? Yeah, no, look,
How far back should they go?
I'm mostly looking at LinkedIn. I'm looking at your LinkedIn profile. I'm wondering, do you have an education on there? Has anybody recommended you? Do you have a photograph? Do you care enough about getting a job to do the things that you're supposed to do to get a job, right? We talk about this all the time in the branch. How resourceful are you? How motivated are you? How much drive do you have? The good news is everyone in this room has drive. People without drive don't register for school and then come here and not make money and work hard. So that's awesome. You guys already passed the test, man. You just got to now prove it. And you can prove it by having a nice, full, robust profile of LinkedIn. And what's really, really nice is they'll tell you how complete your profile is. I'm like 95% complete or 99% complete, right? No pen clicking. Don't do that in an interview, all right? I was going to talk about that later. Talk about it now. So go ahead.
I was just going to ask, as far as like photos go, is it worth it to consider like a professional photo, or is it just a typical like you're looking straight at your face and smiling?
You don't have to do a professional photo. I have one, but that's because I had my own company, and you know, if I was just working at Robert, I wouldn't have gone out and spent whatever I spent on a photograph. You know, most of us probably have a friend who's got a decent camera, who has Photoshop or whatever, but you're all good looking anyway. I wouldn't worry too much about it. It's just a nice picture without the sun right behind your back and you're a dark shadow. You know, these things where you're like, you know, with your dog, like, that's cool for Facebook. It's not very professional. You don't have to wear a tie. You know, just Banana Republic it up and you'll be fine. Cool? All right. Other social media that you think is worth, yeah?
Well, it's related to social media, but finish your...
Let me just talk a couple more minutes. How many people here have a GitHub account? All right. Raise your hand if you don't. Any of you with your arms up, are you in the second half of your schooling here?
Yeah.
Everyone? You are? Okay, so get a GitHub account and start that early. All these things are investments, right? So the more time that we're on a social media platform, the longer we have to develop that profile and experience. The more recommendations we get, the more software code we're putting up, the more comments we're making on other people's stuff, the more we're contributing to other people's aspects of code. You know, if you're a contributor, it's going to show, right? How many people here have recommendations on their LinkedIn? Good. What do you think the best way to get a recommendation is?
Ask.
Recommend someone else?
Yeah, ask and do a recommendation for another. So what I like to do, and when I was really trying to develop my LinkedIn profile early on, is I would do 1 or 2 recommendations a week for people that I felt strongly about. I don't just give them out, right? And then I would ask them to do the same for me.
What I was gonna say too is that, really think about a positive example of why you're recommending, so not just throw out there, hey, he's a great guy. Provide a tangible example of how your interaction was impacted, and it'll also teach them kind of how you want yours to be as well. Because
absolutely.
Saying, hey, he's a great guy, we had a great beer parties after work, isn't gonna cut it. They want to have tangible examples of how they were great, what they did.
Right.
And, I had my boss do just a glowing review, and it was just awesome. And I turned around and wrote her one as well. This is after she left the company, but it was an opportunity, and I gave specific examples of why she was good at it. So
I appreciate that. That's a very good point, and we can, and this is to your point, ma'am, we can really get this integrating our prior background. If you had a previous job and you had a nice manager there, and they want to talk about your level of professionalism, they can talk about your ability to communicate with other people. They can address very specific qualities that everybody's looking for in any new hire, and they can do that on LinkedIn. And so it's a nice way to bolster that.
Yeah, that's what the recommendations are, is from the prior.
That's great.
Two careers, so.
Great. Because does anyone have anything else about GitHub? Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, it wasn't about GitHub.
It's okay, go ahead. What's up?
The LinkedIn recommendation, is that more valuable nowadays than the good old-fashioned letter of recommendation, like paper letter, or is that kind of passé?
Yeah, it's a little passé. It's always good to have. So I'm always impressed if someone comes in. And they're like, "Would you like to see my letters of recommendation?" And they open up their file and they pull out their beautiful little, paper, and they slide it across the table. That's great. But I can quickly get the same sense just online. Right? We're kind of paperless society now, right? So those letters of recommendation, I think, are still very powerful, and if you can get them and get a number of them, that's great. Do it. But taking that same information and asking them, can you please copy and paste this, or highlight a portion and send it back to them in an email, like, hey, you wrote this about me 2 years ago. Would you mind adding this to recommendation on LinkedIn is another way that you can get some good information. Yeah. And then I know in the past, I've submitted, I've got my resume, which is about 4 pages, and then I've got this 6 or 7 page document that I would send it to companies, and it had every positive LinkedIn reference on there too. It's another way you can bolster things like that.
Yeah, so speaking of being an online society, one of the early courses in the curriculum here is a course on using WordPress.
Yeah.
And one of the items in the course is we were encouraged basically to make an online resume. And do you have an opinion on online resumes?
Yeah, I think it's great.
Okay.
I think it's a really good idea. And we'll talk about resumes in more detail in just a second. And just keep me in touch on time. Kind of let me know once in a while. I don't have a watch, but we're okay. What time are we good till?
We're good till 3:30 or maybe a little longer.
Okay,
We're good.
great.
It's
Okay,
free
cool.
right now.
Great.
Yeah.
So what I do on my resume is I have, you've got your name, your phone number, your email. Don't put your physical address. You can put your city. If you don't want people hitting Google Maps and fake driving up in front of your house or apartment, I don't think you have to do that anymore. That was important back when we were mailing things all over the place. So, name, address, or not address, city, email, and then I do a hyperlink of LinkedIn. And you can do a hyperlink of your website or of your online resume. And on there you should have there's another link to my GitHub, here's a link to this, here's a link to that. Link everything. Cool. I'm sorry, you did have a question earlier. What's up?
Oh, I was just going to go back to your point about looking people up when you first get their resume or whatever.
Yeah.
How do you know who you're looking at? Because I've Googled myself, and there apparently are 17,000 of me out there.
What's your name?
Ryan.
Cyan.
Sauter.
Sauter, okay.
Yeah, with the exact same spelling, exact same pronunciation.
Can't solve on their own or without your help. So we want to talk to these things. Talk about time, talk about money, talk about problem solving. And we can do that right up top with an objective or with a summary. And the summary is going to be more about, hey, 1 year experience of junior web development, knowledge, skilled at blah, 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 strong with back end, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? And tell them what you're all about. And it's a great thing, too, to be able to talk about, you know, your communication, your level of professionalism, and to tie in some of the experiences and qualities that you've developed since this is perhaps your second career. Right? We don't want to dwell or focus on the past or whatever it was that you've done. We've all had different jobs than what we're doing now. It's normal. But we can talk about the values, the qualities that we've brought over into our new world. All right. So we're going to tell them real big. We're going to have a nice little summary. We're going to talk about our experience. And when we're bulleting what we've done under there, I want you guys to make sure, if you can, that you're not talking about the work that you've done like it's a job description. Okay? I see a lot of resumes that say things like, you know, manage printer servers, you know, Windows 2008, MySQL. They're just like, and they'll take whatever job or internship that they had and they'll copy and paste it, and now it's a done resume. This document, guys, is going to make you more money than just about any other piece of paper other than your great uncle's will in the history of your life. So you're going to want to spend some time on it. You're going to want to love it up. And you can do that by taking some of this initial advice and spend some time on Google. And if you're really up for it and you've got the money, you can pay someone to professionally have your resume done. For someone who's junior, it could be as little as $100. It could be as much as $500 or $1,000 if you're an executive. I paid for mine to be done about 8 years ago. I gotta tell you, I couldn't believe how awesome I was. I was like, oh my God, I would hire myself right now. This is incredible. So, you know, you really have an opportunity to stand out and stand out quickly, because this is how it works. The resume gets you what? Gets you a phone call. Phone call gets you what?
Interview.
The interview. Interview gets you
Another interview.
close them down. Close them on the first one. Yeah, it might get you another interview, or it could get you the job offer. So just understand what its importance is. You're not going to get phone interviews, regular interviews, and job offers if this thing ain't right. Okay? Who was talking about the word I? Jerry? All right, so this is a really good point. Everyone, when you go home tonight, grab your resume, grab a pen, sit down, and let's do a little circle game like Word Finder. Let's circle how many I's are on your resume. I did this, and I did this, and I did this, and I did this, and I'm awesome because I did this. No one wants to see that. All you have to do is take out the I. You don't even have to replace that. You could say things like, instead of, I designed, and I developed, and I produced, and I released such and such software or website, you can just say, design and develop software, whatever. Just take the I's out, guys. So that makes sense, right? Okay. All right, so instead of this being a job description, we want it to be a success story. A very short one that fits on a line. And the way we do that is we use this formula. It's my favorite formula. So qualify. How come no one has notepads? How come no one's taking notes on this? All right, my man in the back.
And it's being recorded.
So when you go on an interview, bring a notepad, write it down, don't click the pen. If you've got a pen clicking problem, and probably 20% of people do, bring pens that don't click. Just a recommendation. Okay, don't chew gum either. All right, so qualify times quantify equals a result. So if we're going to quantify something, we're going to throw a number in there. Why would we do that on a resume?
Numbers stand out.
Numbers stand out. Thanks, buddy. Numbers stand out really big. So you can say, instead of saying, I'm just going to kind of make something up here, you know, I pick apples. So I pick 20 bushels of apples a day. So I've quantified it. Right? I pick 20 bushels of apples a day, resulting in a 20% higher yield per day than average for my team of apple pickers. Now I've qualified it. I've put it in context. Does that make sense? Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Does anyone have an example that they'd like to share? Do you want me to do another example so everyone gets it?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm a pear picker. So what you might say is, instead of I develop websites, you can say I develop WordPress sites, or I've developed 5 WordPress sites using these types of frameworks, including hard coding, PHP, blah, 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 tying in such and such APIs, was able to deliver this on time and under budget, resulting in accolades from my employer. So the big deal is the R is resulting in. Sorry about the handwriting, guys. So I'll write down here too. Qualify, okay? That's context. And then quantify are the numbers equaling a result. So a nice little exercise, you've got time to get this right. A nice little exercise is you can go home and you can bust out the resume and you can circle all the little bullet points on your job descriptions or your background that don't have a number, don't have a result, and are out of context. Then you can try and build numbers, context, and quantification around each of those lines, and the ones that aren't impressive, you can delete. And then you got a nice little success story. Who's got questions about resumes? All right, good. Who wants to talk about interviews?
Sure.
Sure.
Who needs a bathroom break? All right. Nice crowd of camels here. All right. So, building a solid resume. And guys, just real quick, you can pass this around if you want to pass that around real quick. I might need it back because I might need to find out what I'm going to talk about next. But you can pass that around and just kind of eyeball it. There's an older resume of mine, so you can kind of see a format. All right, so we're going to talk about interviews? Okay. How many people here think that they're really, really good at interviews? Yeah. You guys look like you'd be pretty good at interviews. All right. So what do you think makes a really good interview?
Eye contact.
Sorry?
Eye contact.
Eye contact. Great. What else?
Smiling.
Smiling, yeah.
Body language.
Confidence. It's the best way to get confidence.
Preparation.
Preparation. How do you get preparation? How do we prepare?
Practice.
Right. You guys might hate me for this, but I'm a huge, huge Patriots fan. And one of the things I love about Belichick and his coaching style is they practice for all different kinds of scenarios, and they're relentless. No matter what the air pressure in their balls are. Still practice a lot. So, practice, practice, practice. I had an interview for a national director role down in Australia, and I sat down several days before the interview. Not the night before, I sat down several days before the interview, and I Googled top 5 questions you're asked. I mean, I've been doing this for years. I'm doing this practice stuff myself. I Googled top 5 questions asked in interviews, and then I sat down and I wrote them all out, all my answers, and then I edited them, and then I rewrote them, and then I printed them off, and I sat there, and I did some hyperclocking reading, which is when you read something over and over and over again so that you can say it really, really fast so that it will come naturally to you when you are asked. So instead of, I'd start out, Roddy Piper represents an important chapter in Portland sports history in the era following the Blaze. So I'd read like that, and then until it's like, Roddy Piper represents an important, and I'm just cranking through. That's how I practice for interviews. And then I would go out, and when someone asks me, I'm not going, Roddy Piper, it's smooth. because I've said it so many times. Say it 10 times. How long do you think that would take me to read 5 small paragraphs from the 5 most important questions?
It's actually a couple minutes.
A couple minutes. You know, I could read this whole thing off in about 30 seconds to a minute. If I do it 5, 10 times, it's 10 minutes of my life. Totally worth it, man. Totally worth it. I want to get in there and look like a fool. Where do you want to be in 5 years? You know exactly where you want to be in 5 years. I never asked that question. I don't like it. But most people do. So know it. Know what you want, right? And make sure that the answer includes the company that you're interviewing. Okay? You know, I want to be an apple picker. Really? This is a web development job. What are you talking about? Okay, so we can practice our interview questions at home before we even show up. What else should we do when we go to an interview? How should we look?
Dress appropriately.
Yeah, and we should dress appropriately for that specific job. If someone comes in and they're interviewing with me because they're a CIO candidate and they're not in a suit or in some very nice clothing, then it's a flag, it's a red flag, right? If someone comes in and they're interviewing to be a creative at a hipster agency, ad agency downtown, and they come in Vans, skinny jeans, untucked plaid shirt, heavy black glasses, you know, because they're so unique. Just teasing. No. So then that's totally appropriate. It's work-specific appropriate. And if you're going to go interview out at a manufacturing site and you're expecting a tour or some boots with steel toes, right? So just make the outfit fit what you're going to. And don't think that recruiters, even though they're not being inclined, don't think that they're not going to take notice. So you don't have to be wealthy, you don't have to spend a lot of money on clothing. What you do have to have is clean clothing that's not wrinkled, that doesn't smell bad, and hopefully isn't too threadbare and old. Okay? So go ahead.
So, I mean, from a developer standpoint, I mean, what does that mean if we're coming in to sit down with you? I mean, it's like we all watch videos from the Microsoft channel and the developers are standing up there in, you know, $9 t-shirts and a pair of jeans, which may be the culture at Microsoft.
They have a job, dude.
Well, no, but that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. You know, I would never show up to an interview like that.
Yeah.
I come from the whole you wear a suit all the time,
sure.
But that's not really the industry I'm headed to.
Right.
So is it dress pants and a dress shirt? Is it?
Yeah, I always say like just Banana Republic.
Okay.
I mean, if you're a developer and you're going in for a developer job and you've got some nice pressed slacks and a tucked in long sleeve shirt that's buttoned up with a collar, you're gonna be just fine, you know.
What if it's for a tech position at a bank?
Well, you might want to throw a little tie on, make sure your shoes aren't too clunky.
You have to have a beard.
What's that?
Do we have to have a beard?
In Portland, yeah.
Salt patch.
Yeah, look, I mean, facial hair is a choice. Just understand it's a choice with consequences sometimes. I remember I applied for a job. This was in Park City. I was living up there in the summertime in between years of college, and I applied for a position bussing tables at Steinhart's and Lodge, which was the most expensive restaurant in town, and I was going to make $200 a night back in 1990, and that's a lot of money for a kid back then. And they said, sure, you know, you just got to shave the sideburns and cut the hair, because I had long hair. Beautiful. Beautiful. I didn't cut it, and I worked for $7 an hour carrying logs on a construction site on my shoulder. And I wish I'd cut my hair in retrospect, because you know it didn't do me any good. So just make sure that whatever you're doing, you know, be true to yourself, be true to your own style. Just understand that sometimes your own style has consequences. You have a question?
No.
No? I was just trying to figure out. All right. So again, just be presentable, take a shower, comb your hair, shave that morning, not the night before, unless you're like Adam Levine or something. That's cool. Any questions about presentation at an interview? Yeah.
Well, I have a question about age, and
Okay.
I have some concerns around age discrimination.
Yeah.
Can you show us anything about that for us?
Sure. Age discrimination is real. You know, it's a real thing, and it can be a problem. And I think that when people do discriminate by age, they're not doing it on purpose sometimes. A lot of times if you have a 30-year-old manager and they're going to have to manage someone who's as old as their dad, it can make that manager very uncomfortable when they're inexperienced in managing in general at that age, and now they have to instruct someone who has a wealth more experience. I mean, I always think about the military, or I really enjoyed the series Band of Brothers, and you've got these young lieutenants, but it's the sergeants who've been in great, what can I find for you? And then at the very end they say, and we're really looking for someone who's, who's young, who's fresh out of college, who's blah, 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 this and that, and we've got a pat thing that we say, I apologize, but we will not take a discriminatory job order. We base our placements solely on their capability and ability to do the job, and we hope that works well for you, and if not, then maybe we're not the right recruiting firm for you. So I think most people are really, I think most people try really hard to not let that affect you, but to be honest, a lot of people who are more senior will oh, thank you. Cool. I think a lot of people will actually kind of shoot themselves in the foot. So you want to get the phone call, you want to be able to prove yourself in the job market. Number one, take out some dates. If it's older than 20 years, it's not relevant. Sometimes if it's older than 15 years, it's not relevant. If you graduated high school in 1978, maybe you keep that to yourself. It's not bad to graduate high school in 1978. There's nothing wrong with it, but you don't have to advertise it. If you, come on, Jerry, give everyone else a chance. Wait a second, man. So just make sure that you're doing your very best to not date yourself. If you're like on your second stint in web development, you might not want to state RPG COBOL developer. Everyone's like, what's that? We were like, what's that in 1995? It's already old. So just be careful about what you put on your resume. Don't date yourself. Put work experience, 10, 15 years is fine. Okay, Jerry.
The moment that I tried to take off like some of the dates that are older than 15 years old, I ran into recruiters who asked me to put them all back on.
Who?
Like, I'm not going to name names, but I mean, just, they want to know all of that information. Of course, when you go in and apply directly online with some of these companies, they want to know when you graduated high school.
Okay, so that's fine. I mean, if they're asking specifically, well then tell them, that's fine. But if you're just creating a document that you're going to push out into the world without really knowing who's going to read it, then I would be careful. And I want to jump in real quick about that, because it's very relevant to your resume. On a resume, prime real estate's right here in the middle, okay, and a little bit at the bottom, and at the top of your second page. And the eyes go bing, bing, flip, top page, boom, okay, so that's what people are looking at the most. You want to make sure when you're developing and designing your resume that the more recent the job and the longer you were at the job, the more resume real estate you give it, okay? So if you worked a 3-month contract in 2005, it shouldn't be this big at the bottom of page 2, and your 6-year job that you just finished shouldn't be this big up at the top. It should be this big, and that little job should be at the bottom. So the older it is, the less you were there, shorter.
What if the job that you do have a lot of years in or whatever is 100% unrelated to the industry?
Yeah, well, you're going to want to be choosy about the experiences that are relevant within that group, right? So you're going to want to talk about your history. They understand that you're not the most expensive developer in the world, that you're new, and that the compensation is going to be relevant to that. But what we're looking for is, do you have accomplishments? Do people like you? Right? So, you know, I'd probably do a much, much shorter, truncated version of your past experiences and really try and focus on your schooling, education, internships, home projects, personal projects that you're working on yourself right now. And if anyone isn't, start thinking, start brainstorming about that. What could I do for my house? You know, what buddy of mine has a company that doesn't have a website that you could do? You know what I mean? Okay. All right. Interviews? Gonna keep talking about that? You do?
Well, I have one other question.
Yeah.
You used a key phrase earlier, which was job offer. So the question is around negotiating salary.
Okay.
And at this level, what's that gonna look like?
Not much. Not much. You know, you've got to make sure that there's a livable wage. But I think it's really important that everybody accept that your first job out of this school is also going to be an education, and that there's a cost for that. That cost comes out of your wallet because the checks are going to be smaller. Just know that, just accept that, and understand that. And I'm assuming that everybody is in this industry because they are passionate about something new. They view this as a ticket or a key to your own future, to your own ability to provide a nice income for yourself and for your families. And just understand that the education doesn't stop once you walk out the door here. There's going to be a cost, and it's typically in your salary. If you get an offer and you're going to be getting to do some of this work at any company, take the job. Suck it up. You know, it's again, back to being resourceful. Being resourceful is taking advantage of what's on hand, right? The job offers on hand, take it. So a lot of times I've seen people that will say, I'm not going to take that job, Josh, you know, because I want $40 an hour and it's only paying $35 an hour, which is about a difference of $10,000, right? And then they go another 2 months looking for work, and now in their third month, they've now missed that $10,000 that they would have been making already. So just understand that while you're working, you're making money. And while you're not working, your value is continuing to recede, and what you're willing to take.
Sorry, not to put you on the spot, but what's the average for an entry? Like, you know, we've all seen the numbers. Make $100,000, you know. But driving 70 miles for minimum wage and to be tied to an anchor, you know, that really isn't attractive either. But
you guys shouldn't be making minimum wage when you come out of here. You know, maybe on a 3-month gig or something just to get some experience or whatever. But if you've chosen the right kind of technology that's hot, if you are really truly applying yourself outside of these walls, out there in the real world, if you have a compelling story or a compelling personality that can help you land that job, you know, I've seen entry-level developers get 25 an hour, 18 an hour. Some I've seen take 15. I know one guy is like, you know, out of school for a year, just a little bit of experience, got an offer for $80,000 a year. So you can make really good money, but just understand you're gonna have to get some experience, a little bit of experience first. You could get 6 months of experience and go from $20 an hour to $35 an hour. It's going to be a very big jump. It's not going to be 4% a year. You know, it's going to be a very big jump. We're currently seeing incomes jump about 10% a year in this industry locally.
So if you had to put an average on it, what the average scale is coming out, because that was a very tactful answer. I gotta give you credit where it's due.
Yeah,
but it's hard.
I'm not trying to talk circles around it or anything. I'm not a spin doctor. Yeah.
I wasn't trying to imply that you.
Yeah, no, good hard numbers. I don't know, $15 to $30 an hour.
Okay, cool.
$15 to $30 an hour is probably what you can expect. And if you are, look, if you're heavy on Ruby and you're heavy on JavaScript right now, that's probably paying the most. .NET, I think it's a steeper ramp up. I think it's just harder to really get all of the tools and all the MVC and all this and that to really feel like you can go in and apply yourself. It's the long play, you know. So just know like whatever technology, you know, WordPress. I've done WordPress sites myself. I'm not a developer. I didn't go to school for it. You know, they weren't pretty. So just understand that, you know, the technologies out of all of these, you know, the jack of all trades, master of none, tend not to make as much money as someone who's specifically dedicated to a particular technology. But what's great about this program is you get to know which one's going to work for you and really apply yourself on that. So pick it early, stay focused. You know, no one wants to hire a chef who's really good at Italian and Chinese food. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there's some crossover, but pick your stack. Pick your stack and get really good. Cool? The more you do that, the more money you're going to make. If I try to be a recruiter, and I've tried this before, to place CFOs and IT and office temp help, I'm not going to be good at any of them. So same thing with you guys.
My apologies, I wasn't trying to put you on the spot.
Dude, you're good. Yeah, I didn't think you were. You're good. All right, so a couple more things about interviews, and I'm probably going to let you all go. But when you're doing the interview, just be careful of your body language. So what are some good body languages that we can have on an interview, and what are some bad ones? Any suggestions?
Shoulders back.
Sorry, shoulders back? Okay, what else?
Sit up straight.
Sit up straight, yeah?
Don't cross your arms.
Don't cross your arms, yeah. So when we cross our arms, we're trying to make ourselves small. Why do we do that?
Nervous?
Protect ourselves, right? Protect our vital organs. That's why we cross our legs and cross our arms. It's just an old, you know, thing from way back when we were in the trees. So what do? You know, anyone ever been to the zoo and seen the monkeys? You know, the big daddy gorillas out there like, whoa, 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 going crazy. He's trying to make himself big. So you got to be careful of both, right? You don't want to shrink yourself up into a little ball, into a fetal position, and you definitely don't want to be this guy. Well, you know, what was awesome about me in that job, you don't want to own the room. So just be a normal person, right? Just be relaxed, be confident, own what you're going to say, listen carefully, listen carefully to the questions, because it's not, you know, don't just wait to kind of, I've got something to say. You know, really listen to the question and try and answer that question specifically. Should we give really short answers, really long answers? What should we be giving?
Not worthy answers.
Yeah.
Focused answers. Tell them, answer the question first, then give examples of why you're supporting that.
Nice. Exactly. Just like our quantify, result, right? So, have you had experience in doing .NET development? Yes, I have. I did 3 months of training in .NET development, and I helped such and such company on such and such aspect of it. It's a technology I'm really interested in growing more, and if you're working on that in your company, I'd love to be an asset for you in that. You know, something like that. I'm just riffing here, but something like that. Give an example. So good one. What else? Any other body language things?
What to do with your hands?
Sure. Grab a pen and click it over and over. Now, look, I could talk for probably 2 hours about mirroring and matching body language, but in general, you know, keep your hands up on the desk, or, you know, not in your pocket, not behind your head. And if you're not a fidgety person, just put them on the desk where people can see them. You know, it's a trust thing, right? Someone hides their hands, you have less trust in the person. So you know, this guy. So keep your hands out, be confident. Who wants to know a little hack, a little life hack towards confidence for interviews?
Sure.
Yeah. Who here watches TED Talks? You guys probably already seen it then. Who here has seen the power posing episode? Cool. So did you like that?
Yeah.
What did you think?
I noticed Kevin Spacey does it in House of Cards.
Yeah.
Actually, anytime he leans on the desk.
Oh yeah, he
always
does the board thing.
Yeah.
So I actually, and Gil helped me with this. Where is it? I don't even know where it went. Okay, so one of the slides was Captain Morgan and Usain Bolt. And I was going to talk about power posing with you guys. So to do a quick summary, how we hold our bodies can change the chemistry within our bodies. And if we are small and wrapped up, our estrogen goes up, and our testosterone gets reduced, and our voices get tighter, and our breath gets shallower, and it just doesn't demonstrate as much confidence. When we've got our arms up, and hopefully my little hairy belly isn't showing, but when we've got our arms up like this, think about people who finish a race, right? What do they do when they cross the finish line? Victory, right? What's Usain Bolt do? You know, the big thing is it's arms up, but it's also chin up. And so you can hold a power pose for 2 minutes like this before you go into an interview, and your levels of testosterone, men and women, will go up, and your breath will get deeper, okay, smoother. Your voice will get deeper and smoother and warmer. So you can hold a power pose for 2 minutes, and there's a lot of them. There's that one. You want to do some demonstrations? No? You could do the Captain Morgan, okay? And you could do the, I'm going to get really low here, you could do the head of the board, you know, this one. This one, like your head of the board table. So let's all practice it real quick. Everyone pick one of those. This, Usain Bolt, Captain Morgan, board, everyone on your feet. All right, let's all do it for 2. Who's got a clock? Someone be a timekeeper, 2 minutes. I like the Usain Bolt one. That's good. I like that. All right. Hold it. Hold it. Does someone have kind of approximate time on 2 minutes? You got it in the back? All right, thanks, buddy. Chin up. Smile. Deep breath.
This is for blackmail later, right?
What's that? Now, you're all mine. So I'll just keep talking here for a second. So sometimes when I go on a client visit, maybe I've been stuck in traffic, maybe I've been, you know, just had a bunch of people try and cut me off. I'm a little bit, don't feel much like being friendly. So I'll swing in behind the building, get out of my truck, and it doesn't even have to be for 2 minutes, and I'll do a little power pose, and it changes my state. Because your physical state actually changes and affects how you feel, more than just your mental state changing your body. So when we fit, in fact, I remember hearing something about fear and how, like if you're walking through the woods and you see a bear, you're not afraid of the bear. Your body recognizes it before your consciousness does. Adrenaline rushes into your body, and then you feel the adrenaline, and then you feel fear. So it's a really interesting thing, the way that your body works. All right, everyone put your hands down. How's everyone feel? Good, a little bit better? Some skin off your back, right? Do that for a couple minutes. So the deal is, the woman who gave this little TED talk, I don't remember her name, but they did a study where they filmed people who had either sat for 2 minutes in that kind of closed off, making themselves smaller pose, and other people who they had do power poses. They went in, they had the same sort of blank-faced recruiter, asked them the same questions, and they filmed them. Then they took all of that film, and they put that, and then they had a number of hiring managers watch it. And they always chose the person who had just done the power pose, or close to it. They found that those people were more hireable than the people who had done the make themselves smaller thing. So that's just a nice little hack I wanted to share. I think it's great. It's sure it beats sitting around and worrying, and it can really kind of clear your mind. All right, last point of the day. I wanted to talk about, what was the slide? Beer, weed, and what else? Cubes? Yeah, cubicles. Okay. So, weed's legal, right? Okay, careful if you're looking for a job. Even if you're a card holder, there are organizations that will test you, and you can't get a job if you test positive for weed. So it's still federally illegal, and the reality is companies like for instance, an insurance company or a larger national organization may have a policy related to drug testing. And the reason they have that policy is, there are studies that show if people are taking drugs that they're more likely to have accidents and issues on the job. And if they don't test, the costs for their insurance go up. And it gets passed on to who? The consumer. So as an example, I had a guy I've known for a number of years, and I've placed him in 2 jobs. He's a senior Ruby developer, great guy, really love him. And got him an interview at Cambia, which is the big health insurance company, used to be Regions Blue Cross Blue Shield. They drug test, and he didn't want to take the test or lay off the Buddha for a few weeks, right? So, he said, well, I don't want to work for a company that drug tests just out of principle. The thing is the insurance costs for that company go up, which means that's fine, but if, let's say they change their policy, now everyone has more expensive health care. It's just how it works, guys. So please don't, I don't care about what you do in your off hours, but for yourself, prepare for the job market. And that means preparing for all potential job offers. And there's a lot of great companies out there that you might want to work at, that if you flunk urinalysis, you'll be pretty bummed out. You'll be like, man, I just spent 4 months at school, and whatever. So does that make sense?
Yeah.
Does anyone have any questions about that, or about the law and testing and things like that? No? Okay. So the last thing was about basically, beer on tap versus cubicles. So we work with a variety of different companies, and one of the groups I really enjoy working with are ad agencies and web development companies. I work with a ton of them, and these places are cool. You walk in, there's a big lazy, I went into one the other day, had a guy interview at one today. You go in, there's a big lazy German Shepherd, a grand piano, a full bar, right? Couches, everyone's on their MacBooks coding and being awesome. Those places are great. Other places where developers work look like cube farms in a big bank. And there are some young developers, mostly from the mostly millennial generations, that are like, no, I'm only going to work in this kind of environment where there's free oatmeal, free apples, whatever, free Red Bull. Don't kid yourself. All those niceties will fade in the background very quickly. And what you're going to wind up with is your boss and people you're working with and the work that you're doing. And so please don't again, truncate yourself. Don't cut yourself off from lots of really great opportunities, because when you walk out on the floor and you look around and it's just not sexy. It's just not exciting. It's just not cool, hip, Uber Portland. Does that make sense? It's just my own personal, this isn't from